it's a great rushing ecosystem. We know that last year, obviously, it produced this monster season for Raheem Mostert. It produced some monster weeks for Devon Achane. They were 5th in rushing success rate, 5th in rushing EPA. And it is interesting. I'm glad you brought them up because I can't quite get my bearings on how I feel about this group as a unit, because like you look at early fantasy ADP, it's pretty clear how people feel about this. Like Devon Achane is going to take over the show. He's a 20th overall player off the board in early best ball drafts. Like you got to go way down. Like we're talking past Tony Pollard, Javonte Williams to get to Raheem Mostert as the 95th overall player off the board. I can't imagine that's actually going to hold up when we get to real drafts in August and like people that had Raheem Mostert on their fantasy team last year. I think he's going to, he's not going to go behind Javonte Williams. I just can't imagine that that's going to hold up forever. But for now, for this time being, that is what it is. So that indicates to me, Jorge, that everything you said about, which is true with Raheem Mostert, outlier year. He's not going to have that again. There is a severe injury history here. Early drafters are pretty much not just taking that into account, potentially even overemphasizing that to the point where he's fallen down to the 95th overall all player here. But I have to imagine that Achane is not, he doesn't really profile like any of these guys that are going high up in here. Like, I don't think he's going to have the same workload as like a Kyron Williams. I don't think he's going to have the same workload as like a Travis Etienne. Certainly not like a Derrick Henry, even, Josh Jacobs or Isaiah Pacheco, who go much later, right? So in like your mind's eye, how do you envision like the workload splitting out for these two guys to both give us usability out of both of these players?
One of the growth aspects for Devon Achane, I think, is going to be, I think it's going to be in the passing game. I mean, he was somewhat of a factor, but I think he's going to become more of a factor there. So I think there's a growth. The thing, and I think he's going to be on the field more. He only had 4 games where he had a snap share over 50% out of 4 out of the 11 games that he appeared in. So I think just being on the field a little bit more is gonna help him. I mean, he's so explosive. I mean, his yards per attempt were 7.5 yards, which is ridiculous. That led all players with 100 plus carries, and the number 2 guy was Jaylen Warren, who was at 5.2. So I mean, he was almost lapping the field. But I think he's gonna have a little bit more. I don't know how much he's going to get up close. I think it might be Mostert getting some of the carries. So most of the carries inside in the red zone, and especially inside the 5. When you're talking, and when you talked about the ADP for Mostert, I mean, it's like if you get 8 games, 10 games out of him, I think you win that ADP at that point. Because basically you're looking at, if you go with a hero RB approach where you grab, let's say you grab one of the big 4 or 5 guys that in the first 2 rounds, and then you just wait on running back, and Raheem Mostert is maybe your 2nd or 3rd running back at that point. I'll take that discount. And I'll start him every week in that offense. In that ecosystem. Sign me up, especially considering the fact that Miami was so explosive, especially in the first half of the season.